Come on, give us your view. Mr. Khan is setting up this commission for diversity. I mean, is this the right approach?
Yes, I think it is. I think there's an issue when we start conflating statues with forgetting our history. There's a time and place for history. What there isn't a place for is when black people have to walk through the streets of Bristol and see a statue of a man who shipped 80,000 slaves over from Africa, in which 9,000 of them died on the way, men, women and children. They should not have to see it. And the people of Bristol peacefully, for years, tried to remove the statue, and it wasn't approved. So while I agree with your points that we shouldn't maybe allow people to run around the entire country and vandalise and rip things up, I also think if you're not listening to people and you're not listening to public opinion, then what choice do people have?
Every choice, absolutely every choice, Emily, because Bristol have elections. They have elections for a mayor. They have elections for their local council. And if it was that big a issue in Bristol, why did they not vote to get people running Bristol who said they would change that statue? Perhaps take it down, put it in a museum, put a plaque in its place, or whatever it is. So it's not as if there's been no opportunity to do this. Emily, can I ask you, honestly?
Go ahead.
Do you support what happened in Bristol on Sunday?
Yes, I do, because the people of Bristol tried for years to try and take down that statue to no avail. No, listen, hang on, just let me get this word in, because I've had a lot of people on this show who agree with you. What they tried to do for years, they even just tried to change the wording on the plaque, and it was overruled. So please tell me how, in a system where you can't even change a plaque on a statue to represent the heinous acts of that person, how on earth are you supposed to change anything? And actually, I do think it's a good thing, because if they hadn't have done it, we wouldn't be having this conversation. This is the thing that has enabled people to learn about history. I doubt, before what happened in Bristol, many people didn't even know who Edward Colston was across this country.
No,
and it's raised a massive debate about whether we should have these statues. And my opinion is, empirically, no, we should not have statues to people who were involved in slavery, also involved in genocide of people like Cecil Rhodes, who thought that white people were the superior race and other people should be overruled. I do not think that we should have statues commemorating them. I think maybe they should be put in museums where we're actually able to learn history about them, but not on the streets while black, Asian and ethnic minority groups have to walk past them on a daily basis.
Would you remove statues and anything commemorating Charles II?
Yes.
Would you stop children being taught the diaries of Samuel Pepys?
No, I wouldn't, because I think that educating is different than a monument. A monument, you put monuments up to memorialise people and say that they've made great contributions. You yourself have been talking about the philanthropy of Edward Colston. Educate people on what they have done. We do not need to have monuments up memorialising people who have committed some of the worst acts in human history.
But you can imply that and continue that conversation, can't you? You can talk about people who didn't want to give women the vote.
There is a difference, actually. There is a difference.
Well, what about war? What about people? What about the statue of Bomber Harris outside St Clement's and Danes in London? Now, personally, I think we had to bomb the German cities. It was a horrible, brutal, bloody thing to do. But you could argue that Harris's actions killed vast numbers of German people. I mean, would you think that perhaps was worthy of debate?
Yes, because I don't think that we should have monuments up to people that have committed heinous acts. I think there's a difference. As I've said, there is a difference between having a comprehensive history where we learn not just the nice things about people, but the bad things about people, and we don't have to memorialise people who've committed acts by putting them in bronze and putting them in the middle of public streets and squares.
So if you went to Plymouth Hoe, you would see a statue there and a history of Sir Francis Drake. Would you remove that memorial?
Yes.
Goodness me. Wouldn't be much left, would there? But if we get rid of every military figure...
I would also, Nigel, I'm sorry, this may offend you even more, but I would also remove the statue of Winston Churchill, because he was responsible for around 2 million people dying in India. So
and what about
remove it.
What about the cenotaph? Should that go as well as a monument?
No, because that's a memorial towards the people that died in war. That's a little bit different.
A lot of pacifists would like to see it go.
They were not in positions of power.
But some people think it glorifies war, Emily.
No, well, some people do. I don't believe that.
So there wouldn't be many statues left, Emily, if you were in charge, would there?
No, there wouldn't. And I think that they would be... Well, actually, maybe there would be statues, but they would be put in a proper place, in a museum, where we could teach people comprehensive history.
And what about Trafalgar Square?
I would also take it down.
Goodness gracious me.
I know.
And you'd change street names as well?
Yes, they would.
Goodness me.
And I would teach children about the history of some of our most revered political figures.
But
you just
said people didn't know about slavery in Edward Colston.
A lot of people don't.
So how are we going to teach them it?
In schools, because we don't teach them in schools. We haven't. I was never taught that in school.
Well, I really worry that if we go down this route, where through some form of self-loathing, we are ashamed of everything this country has ever stood for and has ever done, whether we don't bring our children up with a very, very negative view of the country they live in.
I don't think it's particularly negative. I think it's a comprehensive view. We live in the 21st century. It's 2020. I think it's about time that we started not glorifying our imperialist and colonialist past and started actually teaching children about what actually happened.
No, I think what many want to do is to make us ashamed of our past.
No, that's not. No, that's.
I think it is. George Orwell wrote about this after the war. He said there's a certain type of middle-class English person who would rather steal money from the poor box in church than stand up straight for the national anthem. And I think that's what we're seeing a bit of. Emily, you've made the point.
I'm not middle class, Nigel.
You've made the point. You've made the point. You want to see it all changed. I suspect with Mayor Khan, you might get your way. But if he does it without putting it to the people, I would be very, very angry. Emily, thank you. It is now